Welcome, my friend, to Next Level Change Success. I'm Therese, a change strategist and practitioner with over 20 years of experience designing and delivering impactful change programs across various industries. In this podcast, I share real-world practical strategies to help you create and deliver positive change experiences, whether you're a leader, practitioner, or someone looking to bring new ways of working to life. In today's fast-paced world, change is constant. Here we focus on how you can put people at the centre of your change strategy, because people with a sense of purpose are the most important link in driving performance. So if you're ready to create meaningful change and achieve all the success that comes with it, keep listening. Together, let's change the conversation and take it to the next level. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Next Level Change Success. My name is Therese, and I'm the founder of myvirtualchangemanager.com. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm recording on Tharawal country and pay my respects to the traditional owners and custodians on the land on which I'm recording, and to elders both past, present and emerging. So this week we're talking about, and I'm going to answer, the most common questions asked about change. And these are recurring questions. There are a couple of links I will provide in the show notes that will also link you through to blog posts and different answers that I have covered off over the years because I'm coming up to my 100th episode. And it's very exciting because partly it shows me how passionate I am about this ever-evolving skill set, which can really help anyone in the workforce around how to lead change, implement change, not just in a project environment, but also in a non-project environment. And more and more it becomes really relevant that these skills are what can help you evolve. Even if you're thinking about the AI landscape and how AI is really struggling in a lot of organizations to be embraced, mainly because people don't know how to introduce it well. And I'll talk about that. I think it's worth an episode in and of itself. There are a lot of different techniques you can use to introduce AI in a very productive way and a very engaging way in your organization. And these type of changes that people are looking to introduce more and more, you will hear at myvirtualchangemanager.com. We're going to be releasing our membership program, and in our membership program we're going to be tackling specific types of change and providing sample change plans, talking about the challenges of different types of change and the way you can approach it to really enhance your ability to manage different types of change. So if you're a change leader, if you're implementing a new skill set into an organization, a new way of looking at things, whether it be through a risk lens, through a compliance lens, even a technology lens, we will be rolling out tools, templates within our membership program so that as a practitioner or someone who wants to upskill in this area, that you have everything you need at your fingertips, which is the purpose of myvirtualchangemanager.com, to share that information, upskill, and really bring these skill sets to those who really want to perform and continue to evolve within organizations. So many things on the horizon from myvirtualchangemanager.com. But let's also then go through some of the key questions I get asked. First one is, what is change management and why does it exist? And the real answer to that, change management, and the analogy I use is that it is building a bridge between where you are now and the way you work now to a new way of working, to a new policy framework that you want to adopt, through to a new skill set you want people to upskill in, or a new way of working with stakeholders across the organization to either gain efficiency. And change management is all about the bridge that you can build between where you are now and where you would like to be. And the different tactics are planks on that bridge and parts of that bridge for you to be able to lead and to walk people over that bridge to that new world, new way of working. Now, I've used an analogy. It involves a process, a plan, the right skill set, the right stakeholder engagement, and I talk about the change diamond of effectiveness, which has to do with the design element, the change element, the project element, and the leadership element. And all of those coming together in a project landscape when you're looking at transformation programs and major change, that they are fundamental for change success and for optimization. And change management, so I hope that clarifies a little bit about what change is. It is a plan to get you from where you are to where you want to go. And there's obviously a lot of different intricacies and nuances with that. Second question, why change management? Why would it be introduced? Why does it exist? The origins of change really came from the tech landscape. Thus, there's a lot of change phrasing and change ways of working that are common in technology. And it really came from a huge investment that was happening within the technology landscape in the 90s. And as a result of that, organizations realized they were investing a lot of money and were having a lot of mistakes. Project management started to really ramp up and project methodology started to ramp up. And yet it became quite apparent that the people aspect and the ability to lead the people through was missing. And so change management ended up coming to the fore to solve that problem, to be able to engage the people aspects, talk about the capability aspects, communication, to support projects. And it came from IT change. Now we know that there's a lot more change in a typical business landscape that does need to be addressed. HR, like people, culture, well-being change, so structure changes are never ending in many organizations. And so having a robust change plan around that and being able to implement that will optimize the user experience or will optimize the experience of the people within the organization, and it will keep the wheels of the organization turning. Project management, any project management officers now also make sure that they address and resource for change. It is very interesting from that perspective around how those officers work and resource, and having been in those roles before, there's a lot of challenges with that. And so change management really, why does it exist? It's to optimize the people experience, but it's also to optimize the business outcomes when it comes to change. And the next evolution, of course, is customer experience and integrating that into the project landscape and making sure that your design is appropriate for the end user, which change, a strong change practitioner will be starting to pick up on that in some areas and organizations, whether CX and the customer experience area is present or not. It's something that the change managers will be starting to realize is that the design does impact the outcome and their ability to manage the change. And so getting involved in that aspect isn't unheard of when it comes to the change aspect. Then the next question I often get, change management accreditations. What's the best change management accreditation? Now I'm going to just talk about some of the biggest models. So obviously Prosci, ADCAR. Then you also have the Kotter model. The Kotter model is a good model from a logic perspective. It's quite business framed, and I like that. Prosci is quite analytical, and there's obviously pluses to that as well. I've done Prosci. It's a very interesting course. I got a lot of aha moments from it. It is very on the higher end when it comes to cost. Then there's also the neuroscience aspect when it comes to the brain and human behavior and how that works. There's a lot of people who might have psych degrees and behavioral degrees who are looking to get into change. I also have my virtualchangemanager.com, and twice a year we run our change management for projects course. That's coming up soon. So that's coming up in October. We're commencing that. So if you're interested in that, go to myvirtualchangemanager.com. There's a couple of key differences with that. What I've done is tailored change management practices to project practices, but it's a live training online. What we talk about and what I will step through are the experiences where you may have challenges around stakeholders, how to address that. And one of the key differentiators with the course that I offer, which isn't at the high end, high cost end, it's more mid, because I see it as people who want to extend into change, who would do this course and who want to work in projects or apply these skills to projects and understand how change can sequence in with a typical project methodology. That's what I cover. The other differentiator is I cover all about you. And I think this is the key to change as you get the experience and you get comfortable with the process and know how to pick and choose tools based on the environment and the workplace that you're in and the organisation and the company's appetite, which is quite key. You have to be very, very flexible when it comes to change. And that's why many people may struggle if they go and get an accreditation, such as Prosci or Kotter, come back to the workplace, think they're going to implement all of the tools, and they only really scratch the surface because the business isn't mature enough. And so one of the key aspects is understanding that the benefit of going and experiencing the change journey and applying change consciously, whether it be to a team, whether it be to organizations, whether it be within a project landscape, is that you get to learn about yourself. It's why I enjoy the practice so much, because a good practitioner or a strong practitioner is one who is open to feedback, who is not trying to be a purist in the change space. And so we talk a lot about that and the belief system that drives your actions as part of our change management for projects in that course. And that is a key differentiator. Most courses I go to, they're just talking about the practice itself. But what we want to start to integrate in my virtual change manager, because it is so important, is about your approach, how you're approaching it, the beliefs you hold, whether it be about your stakeholders, whether it be about the piece of work itself, and where you may be causing and not having the best experience from a change manager or a change leader perspective or a change influencer perspective, because of the beliefs that you hold. So we really unpack that and give you some processes around that. And that's a big differentiator. As I said, it's not a high cost course. I've also tried to make it accessible so that people can be invested in it, of course, get value out of it. Actually, you'll probably get more value than any other course on the market from what we offer, and where you can implement and get feedback and have a safe space in community with the My Virtual Change Manager membership, which complements the course itself, because we want this to be an ongoing conversation. And the reason why we want to do that is because we want change makers and change creators in organizations who are starting to really be ambassadors for change in the way that work happens in organizations, where people are considered and impacts are considered from a smart, savvy perspective. So change accreditations, yes, there are many. I don't know that there's any university courses yet. Happy to hear that if you're identifying that within your local area, within your state or your domain where you live, that there might be some courses that are forming up in universities. But really, at a practical sense, just a very pragmatic change course, I do encourage you to come to myvirtualchangemanager.com. The next question, change manager jobs. How do I get into change management if you might have a passion for people? And I've covered this off. I think every year I try to cover it off in every season of this podcast, Next Level Change Success, because it is a recurring question. How do I get into change management? And there was a particular episode I remember which I covered off some of the ways that you can get into change management, and also some of the considerations in regards to that as well, because I think it is important that if you have a passion for people, I say that it's not just that, which I would recommend then, because you have a passion for people, that you go into change management. Because change management can be very, very challenging. So you need a high level of resilience going into the world of change, because you will have a lot of pushback from stakeholders when you put together a plan. They may not want to do as much work as you're proposing when it comes to engagement. They may want to shy away from evaluating the change. They may want to push back on your assessment of the impacts of the change because they don't want to alarm anyone about the degree of change that's coming. There's a whole raft of considerations when going into change, but one of the key things is just know it is not as easy as all good times supporting people. There can also be a personal cost if you are over empathetic. So if you're not staying centered enough when you're delivering change. And you also need to consider that if you're not centered during change, or if you're becoming what I call an agony aunt, so someone who welcomes negative feedback, over time that's going to take its toll on you and possibly your health as part of your role when it comes to change. So it's important to have boundaries. It's important to understand and know that the gossip train will happen and be very, very vibrant during some changes, and it's not good to jump on that train or be steering that train. So there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to change to make sure that you can go the distance in that career. It's not all easy, that's for sure. And I think some people might have a bit of a glossed up view of change and think that it's a lot more fun, or because it's people-centric, it's exactly where their heart is, which I absolutely am a fan of. However, you can open yourself up to some disappointing experiences, and over time you can experience burnout if you're not careful. And so that is also part of why in our courses we talk about your belief system, we talk about energy management, because it's all part of your ability to influence change well, empower people to take ownership for change, all of those aspects which are really, really key. So a little bit of how you can get into change management. So you might have thought, I want to upskill. I think it's good to come and do the mid-range courses to get a flavour for it, understand the process, and then in your business as usual, because there's so much change that happens even every day in organisations, you can start to implement those processes and tools just in a softly way to get the experience and get the grounding in change so that you can potentially venture into fully fledged change and into a project full-time with even more skills and more experience. And certainly there's ways in which you can get exposure, so secondments. You can have it in your development plan. If your organisation does development plans, go and talk to an existing change practitioner about your interest in the area, get their opinion, go and talk to their leader. If there's any opportunities that might arise, show your interest is one way to get into and break into those roles. Sometimes they're a great development experience. And then from there, you've got that experience on your resume then to basically springboard more into a change-specific role. And also being across the capabilities of change managers in particular. So there are certain strengths that hold true around change managers and the typical strengths that can help them succeed, such as your communication skills, your management skills, your ability to prioritize work, understand the flow of work and dependencies, relationship management is also really key, the ability to connect, have connected thinking in all that you do so that you're seeing opportunities and also raising risks. Having a bit of exposure to project management is certainly a plus when it comes to change, because then you can understand the world of project managers and what they need, so you can meet those needs as well as your own when it comes to change. It helps alleviate and avoid conflict. I think that's important as well. So there's a couple of key things I mentioned that you can do there. Have it in your development plan if you're currently in a role that doesn't involve change. Look at getting exposure to the project environment or change environment, the experience, being able to frame up your current experience in that change landscape to be able to step across. And then also working on yourself around your own resilience, because you will need that when you're in a change role. especially because you're in a discipline that's not mature in many organizations. So you will need to be able to be flexible. So if you find that you're quite a structured person and that you really struggle with uncertainty or ambiguity, then really change management is not going to be a really great fertile experience for you. So it's not somewhere where you might feel like you'll grow unless you can break that down for yourself. So there's a couple of things for you to consider there. So they're the kind of key questions that I always get. And then the last question I get is, Therese, what are you up to? What's been happening? And so I'll just give you a bit of an update of what's been happening at myvirtualchangemanager.com, because it has been a big year and we're hitting spring, which really excites me. It's one of my favorite seasons. So certainly spring is putting quite literally a spring in my step. And I'm conscious that if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you're heading into autumn. So if you've had a really hot summer, hopefully you have, you're probably getting the change of seasons coming through as well. Then in my virtual change manager, there are a couple of things. We were looking at the real change formula. You'll see that there's a wait list for that course. There'll be one more course running before the end of the year, one more live training. That's going to be change management for projects. So if you're interested in learning about change management and how that works in a project environment in a really practical way, we'll be running that live training around October through to the beginning of November, the sessions. We've also got a membership that is going to be operational and available around November this year and available for you. So if there's particular change plans or if there's particular change aspect of change you want to deep dive into, there will be that membership available, and that will be released in November. I'm also writing some books, and the reason I'm doing first of all, I love to read, so you can never, every single holiday season, I'm always buying books, the latest books about business or inspirational books, so many inspiring people in the world. So I love to read, and there's a lot I have written about in the world of change. So I'm framing up the series around change to be able to give you short, sharp, well-framed books around different aspects of change so that you can get an idea. And once again, it's practical. This is from all of my years of experience. So the practical aspects of change, the things that work really. The first book in the series will be available towards the end of the year as well. So that's happening in the background. And we're always available at myvirtualchangemanager.com to answer your questions. So at Next Level. And obviously I'm continuing this podcast. Love talking about different aspects of change. That will continue. So please continue to tune in. There will be more topics coming up, topics I'm excited about. And I have yet to really choose the topic for my 100th episode, because I've been sitting here thinking about what's the most important thing I want to talk about at that point. But hopefully you'll tune in for my 100th episode in the coming weeks, because that's very exciting too. So lots going on, always experiencing new things in the world of change, always learning in the world of change as I go and implement different things. And I'd just like to thank you for hanging in there with me, continuing to listen. Love, love, love the feedback I get that people who see me share with me about insights, things that they'd never considered. And I am very, very much looking forward to commencing the membership where I can provide the even more practical tools, tips, always looking to provide more value to help people, because I know the more people who understand change, the better organizations are going to perform, but also be more empathetic towards their people and understand what we all intrinsically know. It always has been, it always will be about the people. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you have a wonderful day. And just remember that change matters because your people, your purpose, and your performance matter. Have a great day.